أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ورضي الله تعالى عن السادة التابعين وعلماء العاملين وأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلدهم إلى يوم الدين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah, we are really honored and happy that you all have came out and joined us for a day full of Black Imam's Roundtable. Alhamdulillah, you know when we first planned this, I didn't think a lot of people were going to come. I said, I was talking to Imam Amin. I was like, you sure you want to make Pittsburgh the first stop? He said, man, come on. You think you get 10 people to come out? I don't know, inshallah. Because, we don't like to come out to stuff no more. I was telling the brothers last night, or yesterday, well, I don't know, my days and nights, and they're just like one big blur. I don't know when I said it. It was a day or two ago, somewhere in there. I was talking about how when I first became Muslim, 1991, I came into the deen on the tail end of an era where even if you didn't belong to a Jamaat or a national community, all of us were connected. Like me being from New York, I can go to Jersey, Philly, Baltimore, anywhere up and down the East Coast, and I knew someone there, just being a Muslim. Because just about every weekend there's a program going on, there's a lecture, you got vendors, you have all of these things going on, and we will always travel to these things. And so when you live in your life and you practicing your deen like that, you start seeing the same faces at the program. So you start, knowing a group of brothers from Baltimore and a group of brothers from Philly and a group of brothers from Pittsburgh and a group of brothers from Cleveland and all of these different cities. And so this is the type of Islam that I came in on. But now, after 9/11, the increase in social media, and so a brother can live right around the block from a masjid, but he won't go to the masjid for class. He'll watch it on YouTube or Facebook, even though the masjid is right around the block. This is the time period in which we live in. So, alhamdulillah, a lot of the things that we're trying to do, we're actually going against the grain. You have to recognize that's what we're doing. We're doing what's abnormal. We're going against the status quo. And in that regard, Prophet Muhammad, the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, Bata al-Islam al-Gharib, Sayyaudu kama bata al-Gharib, Qatuba al-Ghuraba. Islam began as something strange, and it'll revert back to how it started, as something strange. So give glad tidings to the stranger. And we pray that we are amongst those strangers that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam spoke about. Kula Ameen. All of you say Ameen. We want to be from amongst the strangers. Because even in this place and time that we live, believe it or not, the Islam that was given to us, and a lot of us know and we take and accept as Islam, is not really Islam. A lot of aspects of what we practice and know to be Islam is completely alien and unheard of by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and those who are amongst them. This is why it's important for us to be connected. It's important for us to be connected, not only with each other, but connected back to the Messenger of Allah, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. See, Islam is a deen, a way of life that is based upon asanid, plural for isnad, chains of authority. every aspect of our way of life is someone heard it from, learned it from, got it from someone, who got it from someone, who got it from someone, all the way back to its source. And once again, a lot of aspects of what we understand to be Islam is actually cut off. We got it from someone, who got it from someone, who made it up and didn't get it from anybody. He took a little piece of that, little piece of that, little piece of that, and mixed it together and called it Islam. I call that hip hop. I'm from the hip hop generation. By the way, I'm from Hollis, Queens. Thank you. I mean, literally, my house where I grew up at was 2 blocks from where Run grew up at. I mean, I remember delivering newspapers, and back in those days, you had to go to people's house and collect the money. And I remember going to Run's pop's house and collecting money, and Run showed up. Right? I was like, oh, it's Run. Right? It's the same dude I saw from Crush Crew. I'm saying that to say because if you know anything about hip hop, that hip hop has an element of poetry, has an element of jazz, has an element of R&B, has all of these things, and because of this situation, it was remixed and made into a whole new music genre. And that may be a praiseworthy thing, maybe with music, but is it a praiseworthy thing with Islam? Where you get a little bit of truth from over there, get a little bit of falsehood over there, but you call it truth, and you mix it that with something else, and we call it Islam. And we have to understand that the same one who most of us identify as enslaving a group of us and bringing us here, in creating this fake environment where there's a permanent hierarchy, where black is permanently at the bottom and white is permanently at the top, and everyone else is in the middle, and every once in a while some people get designated as white so they can get the benefit from the top, but black stay at the bottom and white stay at the top. At the beginning of the creation of that paradigm was Islam. And they were fighting against Islam then, and we'll be foolish to think that they're not fighting against Islam now. The same one who they say discovered this place, Christopher Columbus, had Muslims on that boat with him. And they were oppressed where they came from in Spain, and they further oppressed them when they got here. And I don't want to give a long history lesson, but I'm just trying to help us understand that they're very careful about who they let come in this country. And they're very careful about what types of ideologies and methodologies they allow to permeate in this society. In our last session, we were talking about Aqidah, the Islamic belief. We talked about the Wahhabis or the Wahhabiyas, the ones y'all think, the ones y'all call Salafis. But you know, we family, so we getting y'all out of that. A lot of us are in rehab. You don't call them that anymore. You call them what they are, Wahhabi. The same ones who in the last session we mentioned are Boko Haram, ISIS, and all of these other groups who they designate as being terrorists. I don't want you to think these people are ignorant. They know exactly what books make up their Islamic educational program. They know it better than we do. They say those groups are designated terrorist organizations, on one hand, internationally. But at the same time, the same books, the same methodology, and the same source, they allow them to get jobs in the prisons. They pay them to be chaplains. Why on one hand these people are terrorists, but on the other hand, these people are allowed to educate incarcerated black Muslims? Because they don't want you to reach the truth. They don't want you to understand or practice true Islam, because true Islam will liberate us. See, we have Islam by name, but a lot of us don't have Islam in its totality. In the first session, you heard us, a lot of us talk about how it is common that you hear amongst us, I follow Quran and Sunnah. I don't follow a madhab. The person who says that thinks Quran and Sunnah is over here and the madhab is over there. These four crazy guys in the 3rd, 4th century, they got together and they say, you know what, we got opinions too. Muhammad had an opinion, we got an opinion. Let's make our own opinion. You know, that's a good idea, Ahmed. I'm gonna get with Shafi, and maybe you can kick it with, Malik, and you can kick it with man, and maybe we can get our own opinions and make up our own thing. Yeah, that's a good idea. You call yours the Hanafi school. You know what? I'm gonna call mine the Maliki school. We're gonna call yours the Shafi school, and we're gonna call yours the Hanbali school. That's a good idea. I'm tired of this Muhammad thing. No, man, that's crazy. People don't say it like that, but that's the understanding that they have. No Muslim would actually say it the way I just said it. But when someone says, I don't follow a madhab, I follow Quran and Sunnah, that's exactly what they're saying. They're saying that a madhab, a school of thought, is something opposite, is something contradictory, is something other than the Quran and Sunnah. What the madhabs or the madhab plural represent are codified systems and understanding of schools of thought, meaning those chains that we made mention of that connect us back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, when we talk about tasawwuf or Islamic spirituality, the word tariqa comes up, or turuq plural. You know, the schools of thought, they're also called turuq or roads. So a tariqa is a road. Like the street in front of you, you can call that in Arabic a tariqa. And so we have to look at these schools of thought as turuq, roads, streets. In fact, interstate highways. That's going to take us from where we at back to our destination, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The best and most efficient way to travel in this country is by an interstate highway. Can you get from one place to another and avoid the interstates? Most times you can. It's going to take you a whole lot longer to get there. You're going to run across a whole lot of roads that are not paved real good. And you might get lost and redirected. But could you get there? Maybe, perhaps. And so the schools of thought represent that. And so we're going to take these few minutes to try to familiarize ourselves with what that is and try to dispel some of these misunderstandings that we have with schools of thought. And so that was my long drawn out introduction, inshallah. So I'll pass the microphone to whoever wants to go next.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawm al-din wa ba'd. We're gonna let Otis close this session, MashaAllah. I'm going to talk from a different perspective. I think most of us here are familiar with what a madhab is. By show of hands, who's all familiar with what a madhab is? Okay, just about everybody. I just want to, in my talk, just kind of give a clarification in I guess I could say in Black Imam's terms. So it's a little different from the norm when we talk, right? All right, just to give an understanding of what it means to follow a madhab. Because as Imam Naeem mentioned, most of us, or people who are anti-madhab or think that this following the madhab is something different from following Quran and Sunnah, a lot of people think that it's the opinions of these four Imams, and then as you hear some people say, okay, Imam Malik said this, Imam Shafi said this, Imam Abu Hanifa said this, Imam Ahmad said this, and the correct opinion, according to the proof, is this. Have you all heard this before?
Yep.
Yeah, this is part of the bamboozlement that we've been subjected to, and we should be aware of it, inshallah. So, because it's almost as like, they present that these imams just made up their own kind of things, and then the Quran and Sunnah says something different. And if you study their lives and their works and their levels of scholarship, you'll know that it's totally the opposite. But I just want to give a few examples of how we should understand what following the madhab is about. Based on some of I heard the brothers talking about black culture earlier. That's going to be a topic, isn't it? I don't know what I was ear hustling, man. I was kind of being nosy. Inshallah, I'll get the details later. But let me ask you all by show of hands, who all saw this movie, American Gangster? Everybody saw the American Gangster? What was the most important thing about that movie that you think? Besides Frank Lucas being a snitch. He was a snitch, right? And they say the best gangster movies are ones that, they're told by the snitches. Okay, he put his whole family to work. But what was like the main theme that O'Hare said he wore the chinchilla. That's all he heard. You had one like that, didn't you?
No, I didn't. Yeah, boy.
You still got one. You still got one.
He used to sell clothes, right?
Yeah, I know you got one. You're a chinchilla dude. What else do you remember about that movie? Anybody?
Of course, he was selling drugs, but his main thing on the business level, business aspect, he was trying to get to the source to get it,
He wasn't trying to pay the plug. He went straight to the source.
He was trying to get to the source, and he was trying to bypass the process that was already in place. You know that?
Yep.
And that, in a sense, made him exceptional, right? So he went over there, as the story goes, he went to Southeast Asia, and he went straight to the plug himself to get the dope and bring it back and sell it and bypass all of the whole process that we know how people get drugs. And that same thing is what people do when they try to bypass following the method and saying that they can go to the source themselves. Now, Frank Lucas, we all admit, he was an exception in doing that kind of stuff, and he made some money, and he actually pulled it off. But then what happened? The proper authorities got to him and put him down, as it should be when people try to go outside the process. Because when you follow the process and following the method, that's what it's a process. When Allah forbid any of us buying drugs, right? But if you go cop drugs off the street, and you know that it is a drug, right? You don't ask the person, what happened? Where did you get this from? Where did you study to learn how to be a drug dealer? What's your references? Give me a dalil for you selling me this blue magic. We don't ask people that. You just accept the drug, and the person that's there is trusted to sell you the drug because they are part of the process. Is that true? And I know I ain't gonna ask the old head, man. I ain't gonna ask you if you used to cop dope back in the day. Alhamdulillah, good. That's good. But people who have this concept of following Quran and Sunnah directly and bypassing the process, this is the harm that it causes. Because you got to go through the process, because following the madhab is not just following opinions, it's following a trusted chain of authority and knowledge. Following a trusted chain of authority and knowledge. It goes back to all of these great imams. Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmed. May Allah be pleased with all of them. And they all had the levels of what will make them, what we would say today, a big-time drug dealer, for loss of better words. So they knew how the process went, and they had the sources, and they distributed the work. And the only thing that the person who copped from them, all they had to do was cop and follow. And that is our duty as regular people. When we follow madhab, we just follow the process that's been put in place, that's tried and true. So that's one example that I wanted to give. All right, everybody got with that? We always got to put this disclaimer that this is the Black Imam's Roundtable, because sometimes y'all might not know what we're talking about, and we make references to hip-hop and the drug game and all types of stuff that we ask Allah to forgive us for, but that's what we know. So, for those who don't know, please forgive us. All right, I got another example. How many of you ever been to Disney World? Not a lot of hands. Oh, no, that don't count, man. Well, Tony Island might be better because I never liked that mouse anyway, man. No. But if you go to Disney World, and I've never been actually, but from what I hear, they take you on a tour, like the Epcot Center and all that stuff, and you get on the bus, right? And the tour guide tells you everything you need to know about the tour. Now, let me ask all of you by a show of hands. Which one of you will go on that tour and ask the tour guide, where did he study from? Will any of you do that? The tour guide's there tell you, this is the Epcot Center. This is where Walt Disney, this is where he molested little kids at. This is where Mickey Mouse is home. Or whatever they tell you, right? You are trusting their knowledge, right, and their expertise in that issue, right? You're not going to ask the tour guide, where did you go to school to learn this? He's there for a reason. That's the example of people who try to bypass established authority and think they're going to go right to the sources. No one would ever even think of doing anything like that, going to Disney World and going past the tour guide. And that's what the example is following a method is. It's an established school of understanding with a curriculum. And once you accept the method, you follow the curriculum. You follow the tour guide in that curriculum. And they let you know what the do's and don'ts, where to go to spend your money, what time is the rest time, what time did the show begin. Everything that the tour guide would tell you in Disney World is what the methods will tell you with respect to your religious understanding. Was that a little clearer? Yeah. All right. Now, don't nobody go to Disney World and try to do the opposite. You know how we do. Excuse me, when you go to school, have to be a tour guide. No, don't do it. They're there for a reason. All right, another example. How many people like going to the library? Imam Amin mentioned earlier, there's a statement that's famous. They said, if you want to hide something from a black man, you put it in the book. So by that logic, a lot of us don't go to the library, do we? No, so we're going to put it into that kind of logic. But if you went to the library, right, would you go past the librarian and go to the books yourself? How many would do that? You would go in the library and there's thousands of books. You don't know where the book is. They got a whole system to find it. And the librarian is there to show you where to go get the book. You're going to just walk past them? Okay. But how do you know about the card catalog? Okay. Now, would you bypass the person that taught you the card catalog? It's the same thing. This is what people who will bypass the madahib, they can get past the librarian. You know, the librarian is there to guide you, just like the madahib are there to guide you with respect to your religious rulings. How do you perform your salat? How do you make ruku? What nullifies your wudu? How do you make sujood? Where do you put your hands? And all of these things, all of these have a place in each madhab, and you just follow the madhab. Just the same way you will go to a librarian or the one who teaches you how to do the card catalog, because they are the trusted authority. They are the trusted authority. And that's what we should understand when we follow a madhab. And in my experience, you know, I used to, when I first started talking about, people would say, okay, the opinions of the imam says such and such, and the correct view is. And I used to hear people say that, as if they knew the correct view better than the imams that preceded them by generations. You know, so it was like a smack in the face to Islamic scholarship. You know, and that's something we should be aware of when we hear people say this, or they will undermine the status of these great A'imma. You know, you heard some of them say that, you know, Imam Abu Hanifa didn't reach a certain level in hadith and stuff like this. And some of the other nonsensical things that we've heard from people, that now that we know what traditional learning is, that we have to throw it in the trash. You know, and really understand how people have been deliberately undermining the traditional studying by way of the madhahib. You know, another example I give, Imam Naim alluded to it. If you got on a highway, right, and you saw 4 well-paved lanes, they got all those little bumpy things with the lights, so if you drift off, it makes those noises, let you know, stay in your lane. If you saw a highway like that, which one of you, by show of hands, will drive on the shoulder.
Everybody here who don't follow a method.
Yeah, everybody here who don't follow a method, you're driving on the shoulder. You know, but that's the example of where you don't follow those four schools of jurisprudence. It's like driving on the shoulder of the road, bypassing what's already been paved out, what's already been laid. And one of the things that in my experience, that I found out is that we kind of imitate this Western concept of religion with respect to religious authority. And by that I mean, in the West, you know, in this country, you can start your own religion. You know, you can, I mean, now with social media, you can get on Instagram and say that you're a leader of some type of group, and you get enough followers and say something, and you probably can get federal funding for it. You know, so in this, if we use that in the West, how they do it, you know, then we look at Islamic authoritative religious people in the same way, and then we feel like we can question them. You know, and when we don't have the level, we don't have the aptitude to question the scholars that came for us. And when you look at their level of scholarship and what they put forth for the Ummah, the best recourse for us is just to follow what's already been proven. And you even find great scholars, because you know, besides the four madhahib, there were other madhabs that didn't reach us. And there were scholars that was on an equal level with some of those great imams, or even better. But they didn't have a madhab. And some of them, they followed Imam Abu Hanifa. They followed Imam Malik in fiqh. They followed Imam Shafi in fiqh and Imam Ahmad. You know, because there was no sense to reinvent the wheel, to try to make our own shoulder when the four lanes have been well paved out and laid out for us to drive on. When the, you know, the dope, the blue magic is already put in the bag, all we gotta do is sniff it. That's just a metaphor now. I don't nobody taking the test. You know, they already targeted us. So, well, all we gotta do.
Don't need to step on it.
Yeah, don't step on it. You know, it's fine, just like it is. Anything else is grease, son. You know, no need to step on it. You know, you just enjoy it, and that's the example of following the four schools of thought. You know, it's been laid out. All of the imams, they agree about 70% of issues of fiqh. You know, you won't find too many different issues with them. And this is another thing that we have to understand from people who have said that the madhabs cause division. Have you ever heard this before? You know, and people are trying to insinuate that if you follow one madhab, it's almost as if you are denying what the other madhabs say, or you are denying what the Quran and Sunnah says. And this is absurd. This is absurd. And we should treat it as an absurdity when we hear from people. Because it's not an obligation on us as the regular lay people, the awam, to know every single proof for every single thing. And this is a concept we get from the West. We get from these people that you got to know every single thing. You got to know every in and out of every situation before you can accept it. That's a Western concept. If we look at the religion of Islam, you find many of the Sahabas, when they accepted Islam, they didn't need to know all the intricacies. When you enter into Islam, you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is God, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the seal of all of the prophets. And that is enough to enter you into Islam. You know, not many people go into details about what they need to follow Islam. They just have conviction and knowing that this is the truth. And that is the same way when we approach the madhahib. We know that this is a truth. It's already been tried and true as curriculums, and our only duty is to follow, inshallah. So for those who have problems with following madhahib, you know, just try to get that thing out of that you need to know every single thing, or following the madhab is following opinions, and know that you're following trusted scholarship that's been tried and true for the last century or more. You know, and to understand it like that, then it'll be easier to understand concept. Because, you know, many of us here, we follow different madhahib. You know, Imam Naim is my Maliki Sheikh. You know, I'm a Shafi. Imam Amin is a Shafi. We have some Hanafis here, and we have more harmony than you can find anywhere. You know, and it is the other people who create this disunity with these concepts, saying, you know, don't follow a madhab, it's following opinions. What madhab did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam follow? Which one of the companions followed? Don't listen to any of that nonsense. Know that when you're following a madhab, you're following a curriculum the same way someone will go to Harvard or Columbia or Yale or Princeton. You know, if you make it to one of those schools, you don't ask them, you know, how did you develop curriculum? You pay your money to get an education. Who will go to Princeton and be like, I want to find out how you put this curriculum together? Who would do that? I think you would do it, wouldn't you? So he said no. Huh? You would? Yeah, have you ever seen the curriculum for Princeton? I don't think you can do it, bro. I think you might change your mind.
You just shut up.
But it's already set up for you. The only thing you gotta do is get accepted, pay your money, and learn and get the education. That's the same thing as following a method, because they're all premier places of learning, just like those schools. You sign up, and it's free for us. You already signed up by being Muslim. You go to one of those prestigious methods, you follow the curriculum, and you come out. What they call it? What they call those students come out of those schools? Yeah, alumni, Rhodes Scholars, or whatever, all that stuff. You come out better than you went in, basically. So that's the same thing as following the method. You come out, you get educated, you learn the do's and don'ts, you learn the ins and outs from qualified people, and it helps you get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's what I had to present today, to give you a better understanding from a black imam's perspective. Inshallah, I hope that it helped to give us some clarity on it. And when you hear these people talking about don't follow method, just throw that stuff in the trash. And tell them get in the lane, get in the 4-lane highway, and get off the shoulder. Inshallah. All right, so that's all I got. You ready, Otis?
So y'all wrong. Can I get a round of applause for Big Down to come back? Only on a black round table. I've been studying for years. What a beautiful explanation of how to follow a method. Nice. You know what, though? If there's only one thing we can accomplish, learn to be us. Man, I appreciate that so much. Learning to be us. Everybody identify exactly what he said. Am I right? You can identify. We would act as though we don't know what he's talking about sometimes if we weren't in this circumstance. We're in this setting, so it's free. Like, okay, I have to be black now. Right? Normally, that's all I know exactly what you're talking about. And I was just down the block talking to my homie, but that's all I'm like. Great. No, we're getting to be each other. And that's important. So now, excellent job. Right?
Thanks, Otis.
So we had different approach. I want to take this from a technical point, right? So we got all the points, we got it. I want you to look at a madhab like this. A madhab is a systematic structure based on methodological principles by which the top qualified legal jurist extracts legal rulings from the primary Islamic sources. Now, does that sound more difficult or just follow the guy with the bag? One is more simple, right? The same thing. When you have a madhab, what you're doing is following a systematic structure. It's set up with methodological principles. There's some way they put that together, right? And it is done by a qualified legal jurist, right? By which he extracts legal rulings from the primary Islamic sources. Tell you. So in order to have a madhab, you're going to need certain elements, right? First, you're going to need a structure. A madhab covers the Islamic rules, the rules from A to Z, from purification to freeing slaves, even though we don't have any. Did you hear what I just said? From freeing slaves, even though we don't have any. Why? Because Islamic rules are not for your time, they're for every time and place. The rules don't nullify because we're in a different time. The rule was there. I'll give you an example. Is slavery abolished? That's a question. Islamically, is slavery abolished? No. What's the dalil of that? Now we got dalil. What's the dalil that slavery is not abolished? Yeah, what's the dalil?
There's
Yeah.
marriage for freeing slaves and it was not abrogated.
Right? Say it again.
There's marriage for freeing slaves and it was not abrogated.
So here, let's talk about the future. How do we know that there's going to exist again slavery? Don't think of Western slavery. The term having a slave. How is it going to exist again? Islamically, it is going to exist, right? How? It's a question.
War.
Currency. Not currency.
War.
War. Okay. Are we not going to have a war again?
Yes, we are.
Islamically, we're going to have a war, right?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
No. We're going to have a war. Count on it. It's a part of your faith to realize it's going to be a war even if you don't participate. When there's going to be a war? When? Come on, ain't y'all on Quran and Sunnah? When there's going to be a war? No, I want you to think about something. When the Dajjal comes, the Dajjal is Antichrist. Who's going to fight the Dajjal? Isa alayhi salam. And isn't that going to be a battle? When you have a war, what always follows war? Captives, prisoners, right? They become captives. They become under those rules. So that's a reality. That's a religious part of our aqidah. That's our belief. Whether we live to see it or not, it's going to happen. Now, Jesus, when he returns, what Sharia is he going to follow? The Sharia of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the rules of al-fiqh, they're going to apply to Sayyidina Isa's time, right? So from Tahara all the way to the rules of freeing slaves and everything relates to it. That's part of the sacred law. So that is the system and everything in between. Is this clear?
Yes.
That's a structure. That's our rules. Secondly, you're going to need principles by which you approach those rules, right? Without raising our hands, just a nod of the heads. How many of us been to court before? Right? When you went to court, did you have a lawyer or did you fight that murder beef by yourself? You had a? And even the judge tries to have mercy on you just in case your insanity runs wild when you think you're going to take that case by yourself. What does he tell you?
Go get a public defender.
He says, you have the right to, right. And if you can't afford one
will be given to you.
Why? Because the judge knows you don't understand the system and all the principles that relate to it. And if you go defend yourself, I tried to give you an opportunity. But if you do it, I'm going to knock your head off. Right? And what is the first thing they say? We've met insane people who think they're sane and try to fight major cases by themselves. What usually happens? They get slaughtered. And then the first thing they say is, why didn't he have a defense attorney? He doesn't know the principles of law, right? And how many of you seen the paralegal in court, the jailhouse lawyer, right? Oh, I had to move the picture. Nobody never got in trouble, right? You saw a person and you start saying, everybody can fight your case. I'm telling you, you can do this, you can do this. Nah, bro. Sometimes you get a good one. Most of the time, he's in the law library and he's missing a lot of case law. And then when he get in the court, get slammed. Sometimes you get a good one, you win. but no one takes that chance. I'm giving you things you can identify with. So, you need a principle. The lawyer knows that, right? And the good lawyer knows how to fight cases. He knows case laws. He knows exceptions to the rules. He knows those details. So you need that type of jurist who understands the methodology. Then he not only can be a jurist, because there's lawyers. When we get a real crime, do we want a public defender or we want a lawyer? Isn't the public defender a lawyer? You don't even consider him a lawyer, right? He's a lawyer. But you said, I need a real lawyer. He is a real lawyer. He went to law school. But he's a public defender. That means he's not a skilled, top-of-the-line lawyer. Right? So therefore, when we say Mujtahid scholar, we're talking about the best of legal jurists. He's not a public defender. He is the best of the best. He is the F. Lee Bailey, the Johnny Cochran on steroids. If you understand my point. When you say Abu Hanifa or Malik or Shafi'i or Ahmed, you're talking about the best scholars in the time of the Salaf. The best. Right? The best this Muslim nation had to offer. Right? Let me give you an example. Imam Malik, he was the Imam of Al-Madinah at the time of the followers of the followers. Between him and the Prophet is only two people. Imam Malik, not. Why are you always cheating? I don't get it. Listen, he's on the line answering, so the brothers look like they're smart. So we got Malik. Who's next? How many Malikis? Raise your hand. Okay, Issa, you're a chef. Put your hand down. Malikis. Okay, so we got Imam Malik, whose main teacher was who? Nafi. Who is from what generation? And who was his main teacher? And he is from the? Sahaba. You change Shafi now. Right? And he learned from who? And all of them were in where? Medina. So Malik is the Sheikh of Al-Madinah in the time of the followers of the Tabi'een. So when the Prophet said the best of people are my generation, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and those after them are those, he's talking about Imam Malik. And he's not like just the common lawyer, he's the top lawyer. You see what I'm talking about? Imam al-Shafi'i, they said about him, Lisan al-Shafi'i hujjah. Listen to that. Lisan al-Shafi'i hujjah. The tongue of a Shafi'i is a proof. That's a dalil. If Shafi'i said it in the Arabic language, that's an evidence. You see what kind of person he is? Just let him talk. That's the dalil. You want to know what is Arabic language? Let him talk. That's the evidence of the language. Imam Ahmed, he memorized 1 million hadith with the chains of narration. 1 million. How many of you know 5 hadith with the chain of narration? I'll test you. Go, you ready? Anyone? 5 hadith. Pick whatever one you want. 5 hadith with the chain of, and we are talking about hum rijal wa nahnu rijal. They're men and we men. Really? We just admit 1 million hadith with the chain of narration, not just the hadith, not the text, Like we say, the message of the prophet said such and such. That's not a hadith. A hadith must have a chain before it. He had to relate from where he got it from. That's all of them. Think about this. Now you see what I'm talking about? That type of person. It's not anybody. And they are the best of the best in the time of the best. They are the best of the best in the time of the best. I want you to think of, like, just marinate on that, right? And it doesn't put us down. It just puts us in our place, right? Like, we don't know 5 hadith, and you talking about challenging Abu Hanifa or Malik or Ahmed or Shafi. How? Tell you. Imam Abu Hanifa, he was, in the time of the Tabi'een, the students of the companions, among the foremost teachers in the most intellectual and academic place in the Islamic world, which was Baghdad in Iraq. Iraq was the center of learning in that time, and he was the sheikh of the sheikhs. His students were the chief Supreme Court judges. They were his students. You heard it? So look at the Supreme Court justices. His students were them. I'm giving you law. Because when we think of fiqh, we don't think law. I want you to keep in something too. Islamic law is supposed to govern the society. You realize that, right? You know, we follow the rules, but we do what we want. In real Islamic country, in real Islamic society, the scholars are the jurists and the judges. They are the ones making the laws, explaining the law, giving details. That's their job, right? So you're talking about the best of them. From that, each one of them in their students, when they gave a class, like we're giving this talk, everybody in the circle was like them. You follow? When they gave a class, everybody here would be like them, of their rank, right? So whenever they discussed, they would discuss every single aspect of the rule, and everybody here is a lawyer, not a public defender, a lawyer. So what is the conversation when you got F. Lee Bailey, Johnny Cochran, come on, give me some more big lawyers, Alan Dershowitz, who else? Ben Crump, right? What is their conversation like? Let's just imagine. Their discussion together, some of them have passed, their discussion, the George Floyd case. Is their discussion like ours? Are they talking about, that's wrong, get off me off my neck? They ain't talking like that. They're talking about the intricacies of the law. They're talking on a whole nother level, right? We do realize that. Conversations now. That's Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi, Ahmed. That's how they talk, right? So from this standpoint, the madhab is going to have those type of scholars. They're called mujtahidun. Mujtahidun. And not any kind of mujtahid, mujtahid mutlaq, absolute. That means they know all of the law, not a part of it. You know, we say, well, you go a lawyer, I'm in criminal law, I'm in civil law, I'm in business law. No, them, every part of the law, they are masters. Not just one, every part. They're not qualified to even be in the madhab unless they mastered all of the law. Not just one part. They're masters at every level. All right, that's one point of it. Then let's go to the primary sources. So we just putting what's needed. What are the primary sources of Islamic law? The primary sources. Go. No sheikh's answer. Disqualified, disqualified, disqualified. Quran, Sunnah. You sure? Quran and Sunnah only, or
All of it based on.
No shakes.
you didn't answer my question. I got that part. Let's not divert. We had a conversation, right? What are the primary sources of Islamic law? Quran, Sunnah. Y'all said what else? Okay, Ijma. Okay, Arba. What's Arabiya?
Yes.
Al-Qiyas. So that's 4. Y'all all know that, right? So I don't want nobody say I follow Quran and Sunnah no more. Because these are not the primary sources of Islamic law. They are primary sources among the primary sources. But if you, now listen, y'all ready? If you, on your own, just follow Quran and Sunnah, you will go astray. That's going to hurt. Did you hear what I said? If you, on your own, follow just Quran and Sunnah, you will go astray. Don't dismantle the Islamic system. Don't dismantle the Islamic system. You can. You're not looking at me, but no one said why. Right? Yeah, that's beautiful. Brother Colo. Why? Quiet. In order to apply the law, you got to know everything that relates to the law, right? Right? So I'll give you what happened. It's a dumb rule you have in Pennsylvania. I think it's dumb. You didn't make it, so don't take it personally. Right?
They're from Pittsburgh. They're going to take it first.
Right. I come from Jersey. We can't be on a cell phone. Right? So you put on headphones or you have AirPods. Do you know that's illegal in Pennsylvania? You didn't know that? That's illegal.
Yes, it is.
You cannot. It's illegal. Guess what you can do? You can have your cell phone, but you can't have those things in your ear. I said, what? I did. Pulled that butt over, driving while black. And the excuse was I had on headphones. I said, what? They said, oh, that's illegal in Pennsylvania. I said, well, I'm from Jersey. He said, no matter, you're in Pennsylvania. Pull over, black man. That's what I got pulled over. I really got pulled over because I was black. But that was the excuse they used to harass me.
They ain't gonna mess with you.
No, this was in Allentown, Pennsylvania. The state trooper pulled me over with this case, right? So I said to him, that doesn't even make sense. You telling me I could drive with the thing in my hand or to my ear, and if I put it down, but I have something in my ears, they say, yeah, you can't hear if you got that in your ear. So now I'm teaching some, see, I come from Jersey, taught Pennsylvania, so you don't know the law. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. And he didn't give me no excuse. Right? So I'm just giving you an example. That's why the jurist has to know all the law. So go back to what I said, Quran and Sunnah. If you don't just follow Quran and Sunnah, according to you, you're going to violate many things in the law because you don't know the law. Do you follow? You want dalil? Okay, dalil. How many hadith of the Prophet ﷺ are ahadithul ahkam, a hadith of legal rulings? The sheikhs can't answer. How many? Huh? 40? You didn't understand the question? All right, write it down. How many hadith of the Prophet ﷺ are hadith of ahkam? They mean hadith that are for legal rulings. You do realize there's a difference, right? Not every hadith has a legal ruling to it. There are only certain hadith that are for legal rulings. Not everything in the Sunnah is legal rulings. So the question is, how many hadith are legal rulings? No answer. Now you understand why we all gotta follow a madhab? You cannot answer. So that means you don't know. So that means you have to follow someone who knows. All right, I'll give you around 500. Okay. Around 500. She thinks she's a sheikh, don't worry about that. Right. 500. Y'all ready? Okay, how many hadith roughly are in Al-Bukhari, in the Sahih?
4,000, 7,000, 8,000.
All right, come on, that's roughly.
4.
So are you saying 4,000 altogether? Or
Roughly,
4,000?
not all together because there's a lot of repeats.
Okay, so how many altogether roughly?
About 6,660.
Okay,
Something like that.
so over 6,000, between 6,000 and 7,000, right? Including the repetition. And if we're saying there are 500, how many of those hadith out of that over 6,000 hadith relate to legal rulings in just in Bukhari? The jurists must know this. How many of them are in Muslim? How many of them in Abu Dawood? How many of them in Nasa'i or Ibn Majah or At-Tirmidhi? You see all these crickets? That applies to all of us because we're not jurists. Does not put us down. It puts us where? In our place. We're not jurists. So when someone says, I follow Quran and Sunnah, how do you follow something you don't know? It's impossible. What does Allah tell us to do in such circumstance? فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. This is us. We don't know. So we got to go to the people of knowledge. Who are the people of knowledge? Al-ulama, the scholars. Al-mujtahidun minhum, those great scholars among them. Okay. In the Quran, how many verses are verses of Ahkam? The Quran, how many verses are Ahkam, verses of rulings? When I say Ahkam, I mean rulings, legal rulings. How many? Think about it.
Is it just the verses where asked like yes, I don't know, like they asked you about it?
Verses of rulings. Any verse that relates to a ruling in the Quran, that means there's a legal ruling from that verse. How many? Right? You see what I'm getting at? There's a lot more we have to learn. They're around 500 too. So now you have it in your notes. These are questions that's going to be at the barbecue. So some of y'all should be, right? And I'm saying this to do what? I'm showing us what it takes to do what we claim we're doing. And we don't. Now, would any of us get in a car with someone who has our kind of knowledge of driving about hadith and Quran? I said, this is our Quran and Sunnah test. If someone was driving and they had the equivalent knowledge in driving, how many of us would jump in that car? Y'all follow me? No. Y'all didn't answer. Would you jump in? You would? If he had our knowledge equivalent in Quran and Sunnah, which we just discussed and we showed, which is not very impressive for us, right? If the person had that equivalent knowledge related to driving, you would get in the car with them? My daughter has a driver's license and she can't drive me. She has a driver's license. Dad, let me drive. Absolutely not. Right, that's my point. I'm not getting in the car with her. Even if I couldn't drive, I'm gonna get somebody else. I'm just joking. She wasn't like that. Right? But no, I'm being honest. Why? She's not skilled at it. She's gonna make rookie mistakes. Imam Fahim was following me. He said, I'll follow you in knowledge, never in driving. Right? No, it's scary. Somebody get killed. What's going to happen at best if she crashes? I'm going to die, right? What if someone clashes with the Quran and Sunnah? What may happen to me? I may end up in the hellfire. It's much more serious. It's much more serious, religiously. All right. I'm only pointing these things to give us to know our stance. Now the test. More tests. It's going to be in the questions and answers. I want you, all of us together, to name right now 15 different books of hadith that are primary books, not derived books. 15 primary books that are not derived books, and the people online can jump into, right? Give me 15 different books of hadith that are primary books. What do I mean primary books? The author who compiled them has his own chain back to the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The author who compiled the book, he has his own sanad to the Prophet. That's an original book, not a book that he says it's related by Bukhari and Muslim or Abu Dawud. No, he from himself to the Prophet compiled all the hadith himself. Give us 15 different books. Together we want to do it. We can. Let's go. Sahih al-Bukhari. Sahih Muslim. I want the name of the book in summary. Sahih Muslim. The Muwatta of Imam Malik. Someone's keeping count.
Mujam Kabir, Mujam Sagir,
Mujam al-Kabir.
Mujam al-Sagir,
Mujam al-Saghir.
Mujam al-Awsat,
Al-Awsat. By who?
Tabarani.
Al-Tabarani. Okay. So now we're up to about what? 6? Okay, go ahead. Somebody keep track. Sunan Abi Dawud. 7. What about Ibn Majah? Sunan Ibn Majah. 8. Sunan Nasa'i. He said a Timothy already, right? So we're 9. Go ahead. No, you can't answer no more. You're a sheikh. You get 3. That's it. Get used to it. You're not going to bail the brothers out. Right? All right, come on. Let's not quit. What's Darimi's book called? Sunan al-Darimi. What's that?
10.
How many numbers?
10.
Okay. Somebody keep count. Go ahead. What book Bayhaqi? Bayhaqi's a person. All right, well, that's a hint. Good. Bayhaqi's true. Which book? Maliki's have an excuse. Okay, that's a book though. We'll come back to that. Bayhaqi, which book? From Bayhaqi. Come on. No, this is stuff to make us aware how much the Santa Claus game is being played on us. Well, somebody follow the Sunnah. I don't even know the Sunnah. We want, but we're going to learn it. So come on, let's keep going. So he said, Al-Mustadrak. Al-Mustadrak is by who? Al-Hakim. So what's number is that? 11. Okay, go ahead. So think about Al-Bayhaqi. All right, let's pause. We got 11. Let's get one more book, and then we'll go to Al-Bayhaqi. One more book.
Someone say the Muslim.
Okay, the Muslim is Imam Ahmad, 12. Al-Bayhaqi? Okay, that's 13. Okay? Musannaf of Ibn Abi Shayba. And people's looking like, what the heck is that?
Farouk Thomas said everything fit.
Everything fits. All right, come on, we up to 13. We need 2 more. Come on. Let's work it. It's done. Just 2 more. Come on.
Sahih Ibn Khuzaymah.
Sahih of Ibn Khuzaymah. That's 14. 1 more. Come on, sisters. 1 more.
What's it called?
These are all going to be in the barbecue. We're getting the questions. 1 more. Just 1 more. Right. No, that's it. Okay, let's go to Al-Bayhaqi. We're going to ask Sheikh Google to help us. You have permission. Go to Sheikh Google and find book of hadith of Al-Bayhaqi. We only need 1. It's 3 main books of Al-Bayhaqi that are related to this type of hadith.
He said Ibn Hibban,
Okay, the Sahih of Ibn Hibban, that's 15. Bonus, give me one of the books of Al-Bayhaqi. Go use your Google search. Quickly.
Farouk is glad.
Imam al-Nasafi's
He
book.
said evolution of faith.
Sunan al-Kubra.
Sunan al-Kubra lil-Bayhaqi.
Imam al-Nasafi's book has دقائق.
You ain't said that, did you?
He said it.
I said it.
Hanafis have an excuse.
Yeah, we do.
That's a thick book. That's Hanafi fiqh.
Nah,
MashaAllah.
nah.
He did that so we could mention him.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, man.
Tayyib. All right. So we got Sunan al-Kubra, Sunan al-Sughra. That's another, right? Al-Bayhaqi. So y'all got that, right? Ma'rifatu Sunan wal-Athar. The knowledge of Sunan al-Athar is Bayhaqi. So these are questions you could ask. So we got them. Y'all, did y'all write all them books down? You should write them. So all of us are here, and all of us, let's be honest. How many of us said, I follow Quran and Sunnah before? Be honest, raise our hands. Come on, don't be shy. We're being real. Now, we just went over the Sunnah. Isn't that a fallacy? That we've been saying to ourselves? A fallacy. Right, it's not true. It's imaginary. We don't follow the Sunnah.
Santa Claus.
We don't even know the Sunnah to follow it. Now we're going to learn the Sunnah. And one day, guess what we're going to see in our kids? We're going to see in our kids those who memorize all those books. We went from not knowing them to our kids mastering them. But they'll never get there if we don't admit we're not there. Right? That's what we got to do. That's our part of planting the seed. I didn't learn. Now I know. Now we're going to go acquire. Now we're going to train our children that one day we have our children who not only know the books, have memorized them by heart. That's where we got to go. Right? And that ain't enough to even start the process of scholarship, to be like Abu Hanifa or Malik or Shafi'i. Right? I'm just giving us, that is a madhab. Now, when we put that, if we got two hadith that contradict each other, how do we treat them? What do we do? They're both sahih and they contradict. What do we do? Quran. How? Give us, think about it. What do we do? And this is, all these questions are just to get your wheels turning. To realize what a scholar has to do, what he has to know. And then we talk about the best of the scholars. You follow my point? Okay. That's clear. I think we got the, we agree. Online, I know we got scholars online. Are they there or they not? He's got halal haram, fil Islam al-Qardawi, fiqh sunnah, Sayyid Sabiq. See the traces of being an answer? Horrible.
Hey, Farouk, you were supposed to be here, not online making jokes.
Okay, so here's the point. I've just added, I said I was going to go technical, right? That's some of the technical things that it takes to follow, that's needed when a madhab is existing. All those questions and many, many, many more have to be answered, right? Oh, you got the look? I'm going to close with that. I want us to, because how many of us are professionals in a field, whatever it may be? Raise your hand. You're a skilled professional. So give me, sisters, what are your fields? Nurse. Teacher. Caseworker. Nursing. What are you? I thought you was a rapper. That too? For real, I ain't gonna lie. When I first saw you, I was like, Nelly's from Pittsburgh? MashaAllah. You say what's your field? Basketball. Oh, good. Right? What other fields?
Maintenance technician.
Where the doctor? Doctor, security, doctor, everything. All right. So let's take the nurses. We got Sister Tahir. No. He wanted to give you the name, the beautiful name. No, he wanted to give me your beautiful name. Tahir. I'm getting old. I'm married to Islam. right. Tahir. When someone comes to you, they're sick, and they start telling you what's wrong with them, what do you usually say when you're looking at such a person? And they don't know what's really wrong.
I usually triage them. I ask them all the questions concerning it.
And how often do they misdiagnose themselves?
Every time. Well, 90.
Right? And as a professional, isn't that frustrating?
Yeah.
And then they tell you, I'm going to get me a second opinion. As if they know what they're talking about. Right? Basketball. You play ball, right? How old are you? 25. College or you finished? Finished. Okay. What is the difference between a basketball player and a bum? $5,000 dollar. No, here's the point. You recognize someone who can't play, right? I had a friend in the NBA. I told you this story, right? He was a business partner of mine. I wanted to play with him. Let's play some basketball. He said, I don't play with bums. I said, He said, I can't afford to get hurt playing around with you. That's what he said to me. I was insulted, right? But he's a professional. He's making $7.8 million a year. He can't play a pickup game. Abu Hanifa, Malik, and Shafi, they are the LeBron James of Islam. They can't afford to play a pickup game with us. If you understand what my point is. That's a madhab. Do we get to really understand why we all need to follow a madhab? Now, which one is another story? Just in case you need to know Maliki. Right? That's a madhab. I'll open it up for questions.
Assalamu alaikum. While you're putting up your questions, and I'm glad you raised your hand, Issa. I know you don't like to. I won't put you on the spot for me. Can you stand up? Amir Khalil, can you stand up? This is our family, our extended family from Columbus, Ohio. You know, they come out of a community, you know, who they was familiar with them and their situation. You know, they're trying to reorganize. And alhamdulillah, they appointed the brother you see there, Khalil, as their Amir. And so, you know, they started a study circle. You know, they're plugged into us. So very soon we're going to be going to Columbus, Ohio to help and support them. And so I just wanted to show the people in Pittsburgh, you know, that we have a bigger extended family. If you all hear me after Juma, I'm always talking about it. And there's just some of them. Zachariah, can you stand up? It's our brother Zachariah. He's from Atlanta, Georgia. This is our extended family from Georgia.
For this?
Takbir.
They're famous, huh?
And this is not neither one of their first times being here. They've been here before. We got Kareem, stand up. Philly in the building. He's from the notorious, famous Ahmed clan. You know, if you know about Philadelphia, the Ahmed family is a big family. It's like one of the founding families of Islam in Philadelphia. This is one of them. He's one of our helpers and supporters online. You know, we got, you know, Atlantic City, New Jersey in the building, Camden, New Jersey. We all family. We're extended family here. Youngster. I just wanted to show all of y'all that, you know, we got people that travel to us. You know, to help, and soon we're going to be traveling to them. You hear the Imam talking about the barbecue. They're having a cookout on July 10th. It's a Saturday. Inshallah, we're going. If you weren't planning on going, try to clear up your Saturday and roll out there with us. Because every day online, every day online, he has more than one class. The main class, the post-project reflection at 7 a.m. When I say every day, Imam came down with COVID and he only missed like 1 or 2 days. He was teaching classes, still teaching. And it's been going on for more than a year. And I just said, that's just one of the classes. And so it's called the Post-Project Reflections Cookout Barbecue. And inshallah, we need to print out some of the flyers so we can hang in the masjid. But we're going from here, from Pittsburgh. See, there's a network. Just because you don't see people here every Friday, we're networked and we're connected and we're helping to support each other. And for all of you that are listening, alhamdulillah, anytime we get together, we don't like to, I don't like to, but we like to raise money. And so, can somebody put the cash app? Is Samira, she still awake? All right. The cash app, the PayPal.
How you spell?
Is the cash app, is it Masjid Al-Mukmin or Masjid Mukmin? I forget. Al-Mukmin. Masjid Al-Mukmin. And I think the PayPal is Masjid Mukmin, no Al.
In the famous words of Mr. Boom Bat, give up that bread.
Drop that bread. We got another option. Cash application in person. Master is $50, everybody. Who got it?
Alhamdulillah, Imam Fahim.
Drop it
Anybody
right
want to
here.
match Imam Fahim? Yeah, $50.
Inshallah, when y'all said do, you said
Whatever you got, empty your
all right,
pocket.
come on, empty the pockets.
Drop the bread right now.
And we should expect to do this every time we come together. Because if nobody's going to support us except us, we have to support ourselves. So eventually when we go to Columbus, we want to do the same thing for them in Columbus.
Right here, X marks the spot.
We got supporters and family in Wichita, Kansas that want us to come. When we come there, they need our help just like that. We got our people in Albany, New York that want us to help just like that. We got our family in Albuquerque, New Mexico that want us to come out. We want to support them and help them just like that. Because believe it or not, this what you're seeing and experiencing right now is going extinct. This kind of stuff used to be common amongst us 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Us coming together, educating, buying and selling, eating food. We don't do that no more. Why? Because we're going extinct. And so we have to support our own efforts. Alhamdulillah. Issa, you had a question? Okay.
All right, now they done eased up these restrictions with this pandemic, but we will put the mask back on for another purpose. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's go. Let's drop that bread. We gotta support each other. We don't get no funding from the government. We don't get people supporting us. We get a lot of backlash, and we reach out to you. It is the mercy that Allah put in your heart and the virtue that He put in your heart to give. And we won't blame Him. We can't blame Allah. We don't get it. We don't blame Allah. Let's go.
Here's the thing. Seriously, where's the collector people? Here, something that I want all of us to. This only works when we all do our part. When we all do our part. If everyone does a little, no one has to do a lot. Right? We have to learn to build. We can do it. We can. Right? How many of you know Imam Siraj Wahaj? Everyone knows him. Right? Imam Siraj said something to me one time, and I never forget this. What is he most famous for? around the country.
Fundraising.
Right? He said something to me. I never forget it. He said, you know, Imam, when others do it, it's called fundraising. But when we do it, it's called begging. Why do we allow that to be our standard? Don't we have work to do? Hey, guess what? We went over those 15 books. If we're going to get our children to buy them, what is that going to cost? To buy those books that I mentioned to you, all those books, it's going to cost you at least $1,500. $1,500 in my dream. Maybe about 2,000, 3,000, to be honest. Right? And we're going to need that in every black community around the country. How many massages do you think we got in the black community throughout the country? Roughly, come on, give me some numbers. Roughly, in the imagination. 200? Okay. So if we're going to have in every masjid, what kind of money?
Regular meetings. I don't know if
we're talking about at least $3,000 just for our
we're reading this week's book or whatever. I mean, we had this week's book.
We're talking about
a chapter this week or something like that. And then in all of the different cities that we're meeting.
Right? So we want to learn.
Unless you're connected with the respective communities in that area.
And we have to get down. Because guess what? And all the other masjids, they have these like libraries. They're just not now.
I'm listening.
Right? When you come to Atlantic City, inshallah, you come, you're gonna see a library, and you're gonna see what it takes. We need them in every place. We need libraries that are buildings just for study. Not the masjid, not the little library. No, we need buildings just for research. We had nurses in here, right? Can I get y'all in? When y'all go to nursing school, don't you have places to research? In any field. Let's research. That's just one aspect of the money. Right? For our kids to have pride in Islam, we gotta spend on our children. Our masajid have to become places that delight the eye when you walk in them.
Okay, I'm there.
Our children are coming out and watching glitter, bling bling. If they come to our places and looks gloomy, that's not a good look. I want you to think, stop thinking about us, generations. So the money expected all the time. And make it that it's a part of your bills. Really, you know your bills, even if it's only $10. Make the masjid a part of your bills. When you go cable, Netflix, put masjid and make it a priority. If we do that, we won't have money issues. And we shouldn't. So we're going to continue to do this. I thought the frame rate would be last. Probably gonna leave.
Isa, you had a question?
I did, but you kind of answered it in a way. But I guess I can still ask it. So with starting off fresh, you know, and trying to implement what we're learning in our localities. You're starting off fresh, one or two people. Like, what's some of the steps taken in consideration, you know, all our job situation, everything. Like, what's some of the steps that we can do that's, practical to implement you building?
Alhamdulillah. For all of you who didn't hear online, our brother, our Sheikh Isa Abdul Zahir, he asked for a community or a small group of people that's starting out from scratch. How can they get started, or what's some of the steps that they can implement to get started on all of these things we've been talking about? I always say that the first step you do is begin by having at least one class a week in one of these basic books. One of these basic books that we're talking about. Like here, we did the Akhdari, this Maliki book, right? And so when you have that class, have everybody come up. Not just the brothers, the sisters, the family, make it a family day. Pray together. When you start praying together in Jamaat, Allah binds the hearts together. Because you're not going to be able to do nothing if your hearts are disunited. When you start doing that, a lot of people, because a lot of us, we think like Western is like the Imam was saying, we try to stay away from that leadership topic. Don't stay away from the leadership topic. Appoint one of you as the Amir or the Imam or whatever title you're going to use. And that's your leader. And you'll go from there. And you'll just build and build and build. Don't think like a lot of people that the community is based upon a physical structure, a building. This thing could be started in your house, in your living room, at the park, at the community center, wherever. The building and the structure and the land and the property, that's going to come. But you have to start with the education. And this is similar to what the Prophet ﷺ did when revelation came to him. He was teaching in Dar al-Arqam. He was teaching in the house of Arqam in Mecca. That was their class. They didn't have a master. And it built and built and built and built until eventually they made Hijrah. And not only did they have a master, they had a whole city. But that's where it starts at. And so, start there. That's where you want to start at from scratch. And I'm not only saying this from a textbook position, I'm saying this from experience. I've done it before. So that's where you want to start at. And there's other things, but that's where you start at. And the Prophet ﷺ's first revelation that was given to him was Iqra. So you can't have a community, a Jamaat, a masjid, or group of people come together based upon ignorance. You gotta be based upon knowledge. Knowledge comes before action, not after action. And so you start with the knowledge, and it'll inform you about how to take the proper action. First step is intention.
When it comes to the madahib, you mentioned how Imam Ahmad Hanbal, his students were the Supreme Court justices during the Abbasid dynasty. And then Abu Hanifa, he had a teacher, Imam Ja'far, who he studied for 2 years, and he attributed his scholarship to him. And Imam Malik, his teacher, Imam Ja'far, he said about him that he never heard.
Give me your microphone.
Imam Malik said he never heard and never saw a man with knowledge like Imam Ja'far. So when we talk about the madahib, which we shouldn't have a reason not to follow them, why do we ignore Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq when he is part of Ahlul Bayt? And his scholarship was well known at the time, and he taught the two imams, Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik, who their scholarship inspired the other two that we speak of all the time.
Tayyip, two things in the question. Number one, the first question, the first part of the question that I gathered is the assumption that we ignore Ja'far al-Sadiq. That's not the case. If you go to the tafsir of Ibn Kathir, and he talks about تَسْأَلُ أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. The first people he mentioned after the Prophet ﷺ are the A'immatul Ahl al-Bayt, the Imams of Ahl al-Bayt. Among them, Sayyiduna Ali ibn Abi Talib, Sayyiduna Imam Hussein, Sayyiduna Muhammad Ali Zain al-Abidin ibn Hussein, Sayyiduna Muhammad ibn Ali Zain al-Abidin, Muhammad al-Baqir, and Sayyiduna Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq. So there is not an ignoring of them. These are the Imams of Ahl al-Bayt. However, Imam Ja'far radiyallahu ta'ala anhu is among the great mujtahidun scholars, no doubt about that. He was the Imam of Al-Madinah in his time, no doubt about that. So why are we not relating the madhab of Imam al-Ja'far and relying upon it like the four Imams Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i, and Ahmed? Simple. Imam Muslim related from the route in the introduction of his Sahih from the route of Muhammad ibn Sirin. He said, إن هذا العلم دين فانظروا عمن تأخذون دينكم. He said, verily, this knowledge you learning is the religion. So look well from whom you take your religion. If we look at the narrators from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, whom the Shia, who say they're following the Imam of Ja'far, those narrators to Imam Ja'far were considered liars. He considered them liars, kadhab, he himself. So if he himself considered them as liars, how would we trust him to take religious rulings? As reliable, that doesn't mean they're wrong. Liars do tell the truth, right? A liar doesn't always lie, right? They do tell the truth sometimes. But since they are known to be liars, we don't rely on them. That's the only reason. And no one conveyed the madhab of Ja'far as-Sadiq among thiqat, trustworthy narrators, from at-Tahara all the way to the rules of al-Fiqh. So what you will find in Ja'far is some rulings, but not a whole madhab. That's the only reason. So even the madhab of the Ja'fariyah, it doesn't have an unbroken chain. Unlike the four madhahib, all of them have an unbroken chain from us back to Imam al-Shafi or Imam Ahmed or Imam Malik or Imam Abu Hanifa. And if the Ja'fariyah, they say, yes, we do, produce the chain and let's evaluate the rijal. That's it. From us, produce the chain, number one, and then let's evaluate the men of the chain and see if they meet the test of reliability according to the scholars of Islam. That's it. It has nothing to do with Ja'far al-Sadiq. He was an imam of the imams. It is how the knowledge was transferred, right? That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And Allah knows best. But that's the answer. Why? Now, it could be more than that. I mean, if you have a detailed more question, but that's the reason. It has nothing to do with Ja'far al-Sadiq, right? I myself have an unbroken chain back to Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq. From my teacher, to my teacher, to my teacher, to my teacher, all the way back to Ja'far al-Sadiq, blood, father to son, son to father, from Ja'far al-Sadiq, all the way back to the Prophet, from my direct teachers, back to him, to the Prophet. All of them Ahl al-Bayt. And I can produce the chain, and I can mention, as I mentioned, from the Prophet down to Ja'far al-Sadiq. So I would ask the same reverse question for the one who says that this is the method of Ja'far al-Sadiq. Produce the chain. That's just the knowledge. Is that clear? Just from the terms. I'm not saying agree or disagree. I'm talking about the point. And now it's only a matter of research. If you say, no, that's not true, whenever, produce the chain. Right? And that's the same thing we say to the Salafis. Produce your chain. The chain is a part of the religion. If you cannot produce the chain, then anyone can say whatever they want. Our religion is an unbroken chain of narration, right? So it is not a competition of individuals. It's say produce the chain from wherever you get it from. And then when you produce the chain, we're going to examine the people, right? And that's our religion. That's the deen of Islam, right? If you say it's narrated from the Prophet, it's narrated from Ja'far Sadiq, how? And how do we get it? That's it. And when we use this scale, the pretenders, the fabricators will be exposed. Right? From whom did you take? How did you get that ruling back to Ja'far Sadiq? That would be the question. And you can't skip because you have to have a connected chain. Right? This is important. You see Ahl Sunnah? Only Ahl Sunnah has this type of methodology. That's what's unique about Ahl Sunnah. Right.
I'd like to ask this question. There's different madhab, right? And what I want to know is this: all of them came at different periods of time, right? What was the first madhab?
The first madhab?
Yeah.
The madhab of the Sahaba.
The Sahabas.
Yes.
Right. Now, did they call this school of thought while they was living, or did somebody say this was a school of thought after they passed?
No, they didn't use the term madhab. They had the structure of the madhab.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, you use the terminology, these schools of thought.
Right.
So this is the way that these individual imam thought.
No. That's not what it means. Oh, good question.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's not what it's meant.
That's what I'm saying.
School of thought. Yeah. School of thought has nothing to do with the individual. I mean, it's what they think.
Yeah.
School of thought is a methodology of approaching the Islamic sources of law.
Yeah.
The method they do, the method they employ is called a school of thought.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, for instance, why do we got the Maliki school? It didn't come from Imam Malik.
Yeah.
It is the school of thought based upon Abdullah ibn Umar, who was a companion of the Prophet, who was in Al-Medina. And the people of Medina primarily had their reference source from him and others, but he was a primary figure of school. Shafi'i, where does the Shafi'is primarily grab their school of thought? From the Sahaba, Abdullah ibn Abbas, who was in Mecca, and Shafi'i was in Mecca. About the Hanafis got it primarily from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who was in Iraq. There was the Sahaba. And the school of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud and Ibn Umar and Abdullah ibn Abbas was not the same in every issue. They differed from their methodologies of how they understood the sources. And that got passed down to their students until it reached the Imams.
Now,
it's all a chain of narration. Never forget it.
Now, actually, believers like me and other believers, actually, we're laymen to that law.
I agree.
We know nothing about
me
that
too.
Law.
Don't exclude me. Me too.
But what I'm saying is this here. We laymen to that law. Just say if I come up with happy, right? And I follow you, right? Now, you might come to me and you might tell me something the same as he's telling me, but I say, since whatever he told me all my life has been getting me out of trouble and been getting me closer to Allah. Truthfully, I don't even want to hear what you got to say. No, I mean that's somewhat. I mean, we could be argumentative in it. You see what I'm saying? I could say, well, like, brother, I don't believe like that. You know what I mean? For an example, there was a brother, and everybody's familiar with him in Pittsburgh, Abu Bakr, Nigerian. Good imam, good brother, man, had schools. You see what I'm saying? And the only thing they had against him was the fact that he prayed with his hands down. That was it. Islamically, you couldn't touch him. But the only thing, I mean, he knew the religion, he knew the scholars, he knew it all. And he prayed everywhere, and he taught brothers, and the only thing that they got rid of him for was because he prayed with his hands down.
And that's what we do here.
Talk
beer.
That's what you do here. You see
And
what
we
I'm saying?
do one tasleem. Talk beer.
Yeah, but that's
And we say I mean silently.
Talk
beer.
But that's what I'm saying. But nobody could give a ruling on what he was doing wrong. You know, they just say he wasn't doing nothing wrong, but everybody didn't accept him because of it.
Now, guess what? Why didn't they accept him?
Because he prayed with his hands down.
No, that's not why they didn't accept him. Why they didn't accept him?
They didn't know.
They didn't know.
Well,
and here's my point. That's what we're trying to fix. The reason why many people don't follow a madhab is because they don't know. So it's not the point of saying that I think differently. That's not it. I just don't know. So I have to learn. So it's not valid to say I just think differently. No, I have to learn. Because some things are valid, right? Now, if Abu Bakr was praying like this, and we censored him, that's a problem, right? Not like this or not like this. So if he said, don't worry, I like it like this, would anybody accept?
Absolutely not.
no, they wouldn't accept.
By agreement of all schools, this would not be acceptable, right? See? So it's not just what we think. It is rules. Why is this permissible or this permissible and this is not permissible? It's rules. You follow what I'm saying? Because we don't know them don't mean they don't exist. Our job is to learn and develop, right? Trust me, I'm a Shafi'i, but I have high respect for Imam Malik, right? I have high respect for Imam Malik and all of the Maliki scholars. And guess what? Once I know that that's the school of Imam Malik,
What I'm saying is, would you take?
If that's the school of Imam Malik, not the school of Imam Naim.
But what I'm saying is,
what's wrong with my school?
I mean,
I got some dollars.
Do you hear what I said?
Yeah, just say like if he had an opinion.
If he had an opinion,
I'm talking about in his school of thought where he.
So it's not his opinion.
It's not his opinion.
Okay, let's establish.
It's the scholar's opinion,
right?
But
Okay.
if you go to your scholars and your opinion
I
is
think this
different
kind
than
of
his,
kind of good.
Huh?
and your opinion is different than his.
This is valid. Mine is valid because I understand how they got there. This is valid and mine is valid.
So you don't have no disagreements with each other.
Of course not. We're sitting here. I think we're better, but I'm just saying. me and Imam of the Boom Bap is really on the hot, you know. And you know, alhamdulillah.
Let's see, it goes back to
But the Malikis is a sister organization.
like he said, but like you made a statement about the lawyers also. You know, I might feel as though he's F. Lee Bailey in that category. So, but I won't go to you for consultation. But you might be a lawyer.
But no, here's my point.
But
if you think he's F.D. Bailey,
yeah,
or you think I'm Johnny Cochran,
yeah,
you need help.
No, I'm saying my opinion. I might say, well, you know,
no, see what you're doing.
You still won't get out of jail. You call me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're making. Here's what we're trying to get at.
We'll take your money. We don't get out of jail.
Here's what we want to try to get us at.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We want us to follow qualified scholarship. Right? That's it.
Yeah.
It ain't about who I like. I like Imam Naim. But Imam Naim is not a mujtahid. Right?
I'm almost there in my house.
Right? You may like Imam Amin. But Imam Amin don't have no weight. Trust me. Everyone listening? I am not having no weight. My opinion is irrelevant. Saint, let's not ego trip here. All I mentioned to you is the same applies to me.
All right, now another thing.
That's not humbleness, that's truth. I'm not a jurist. I follow jurists. And guess what? If it's from me and I'm coming, don't take it. It's a mistake, most likely. If I'm telling you something, then that doesn't mean everything I say, show me your dalil. This is insanity. You just make sure that I'm following qualified scholarship. That's your job. If I make mistakes, just you catch them if you follow qualified. I make mistakes. He's going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. That's not the problem. As long as we're following qualified scholarship, I'm just saying, Aki, that was a mistake. That's outside of the madhab. That's it. We finish. Correct yourself. We keep going. Look what the Salafis have done. They made their own madhab without the skill set. So now you got everybody making their own opinions without the qualifications. Right?
Some of them base it on the scholars also. This is what they base it on.
No. Oh, I got a good point for you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know because I'm a layman. When they talk to me,
right.
They like talking to the court.
I'll tell you what my sheikh said.
You see what I'm saying?
They don't follow scholarship. They pick and choose what they like according to their desires. So at 1 minute, they're following Imam Shafi'i. Then the next minute, not Imam Shafi'i. I'm Shafi'i school. I'm Abu Hanifa school, Maliki school, with no methodology. Just what I think is the best opinion. You're not qualified to do that. You don't even know how they arrived at their opinions. I'll give you an example. To understand the Maliki madhab and its principles, what are 5 books that you need to know? How many Malikis? Raise your hand. Come on, don't get shy now. Right? Chef is going to represent. You're going to take your whole community. Right? Right? No, honestly, because I'm trying to help my brother and us all together. We're brothers. How many are Maliki? Right? Give me 5 books that you need to know to follow the madhab of Malik and know the reliable opinions in the school. To make sure someone doesn't have a deviant opinion. Give me 5 books together. And Muqtasar Khalil, 1. Mudawwana of who? Sahnoon? You sure?
Yes.
From the riwayah of who? You're cheating. Why do you insist on cheating?
Why don't you ask me?
Right, okay. The Mudawwana, Muqtasar Khalil. What else? Muwatta.
Risala Ibn Abi Zayd.
Is that a book of fiqh?
No.
Okay,
Ibn
Muwatta.
Abi Zayd Risala.
Good. Risala. Huh?
I already said Risala.
Okay, Risala, that's 4. Akhdari is a baby's book. Doesn't count. That's all. It's not in the discussion. You see my point I'm making? For us, we got a lot of, come on, 1 more book. Man, it's getting bad around here. No, listen. Okay, good. That's 5. Let's just add. Right? All right. That's a Hanafi stuff. Right? All right. So let's say 5 books. Right? And guess what? Are any of those books the books of proofs for this Maliki school that the scholars of fiqh in the Maliki school use as the dalil books in their madhab? All right. So now we're just talking about the books, right? We didn't even get into the scholars, right? So you see, we're just laymen, even in our schools. I'm only pointing that to show us, you know, stay in our lane. That's all. And if you don't know, let's not be arrogant. Let's just say, I don't know and I need to learn. And now we're explaining what we need to learn. Right? That's all I'm saying. Y'all follow me, right? Y'all with me?
Yeah. Now I want to ask all y'all $1 million question. This is $1 million.
We're gonna get $1 million.
I don't know if you're gonna get $1 million.
So it can't be $1 million question.
But anyway, because
Can it be $100 question?
because I want to answer, because I ask people and they never give me an answer.
Good.
You know, I don't. Now I'll say this here. I don't follow the school of the South, right? I don't follow Hamlin, Hanifa, and Malik.
You Shafi?
No,
I'm there.
No. What I'm saying is, I don't consider myself following them, right? Because I don't have the knowledge.
I agree.
You see what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is, how do you accept me? What am I to you? I say, and I've been doing this ever since 1970.
Right.
I pray 5 times a day. I believe in the articles of faith. I believe in that. So how do you look at me?
A Muslim.
Muslim?
Right.
Well, how do
you follow that?
But I mean, some brothers feel like, you know.
That's what I don't look at you as.
What's that?
A jurist.
A jurist? Yeah.
You're a Muslim,
yeah,
but not a Muslim jurist.
Yeah.
Not a scholar.
Not a scholar.
You're a common person who has things to learn. But you are a Muslim. That's it. Now, just like I respected you as a Muslim, I need you to respect scholars in their play and put yourself in the proper following. Right? As we expected you as a Muslim, don't play scholar. No, follow me. You can't just say it. We got to do it. I accept it. I'm a Muslim. I believe this. I believe you admitted your status. I have the same status. So we share. Don't play doctor. I shouldn't play doctor. I should leave it to the doctors. I should leave it to the professionals. I shouldn't try to treat COVID. Even if I think I'm smart. I may hurt somebody. Right? That's all we say. The madhab is the work of professionals. Follow the advice of the professionals. Don't try to do it yourself. That's it.
No,
Behind you.
Yeah.
Behind.
Does everyone follow what's being said?
Yes.
And that's in every science. Aqidah, fiqh, right? Now your job is just to find the right professionals. That's it. There are such things as quacks in Islam. There are quacks. Don't follow a quack. Simple. And listen, as a one speaking, when we speak, sometimes it looks like we're making claims. We're not talking about us. We're talking about those great scholars. We're just pointing you to not do what we can't do. But also for us, I got a bigger one for us. We can't cop out, even though we're not qualified. Because if we cop out, we're going to be enslaved to Islam.
Right.
What do you mean by cop out?
I ain't a scholar, so what? I just do anything. No, we got to study. We got to learn.
Or do nothing.
Let's do nothing. Let's copping out.
Did Malik? I mean,
no, we can't. Seriously. Listen, excuse the strong expression, black people. We at war. We at war. For our very survival. We're at war.
Literally.
If we don't learn, we're going to be wiped out as a people. Ask the elders. Where's my sister go? She was. Yeah, she left. When y'all was 70 years old, and I mentioned this, you used to hear black Muslims. That meant something. That's gone. And if we don't learn, it's going to be gone for good. We have to learn. I hate to say it, it hurts my heart, but they don't have our best interests at heart. And if some of them do, it's not enough of them. It hurts to say that. They don't have our best interests at heart. And if some of them do, I'm talking about other than us. If some of them do, it's not enough of them to make a difference. Please write that. It's a reality. Other than us, do not have our interests at heart. And if there are some, it's not enough to make a difference. We have to learn to love ourselves. And we have to build. We have to become educated. We cannot suffice ourselves with not knowing. It doesn't work. We're going to get globally slaughtered. It's a new world. We can't stay on Aleph Bad time. It's not going to work. Oh, I'm sorry.
It was mentioned.
Right after him.
It was mentioned today several times. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said to be rightly guided, follow Quran and Sunnah. And oftentimes we hear this a lot. But isn't it true that Hadith al-Thaqalain, it actually reads, follow Quran and Ahlul Bayt? And if that is true, why is that not mentioned and why is the other one mentioned?
Both are mentioned. And both are Sahih.
So which one, like you said, when two...
Both are mentioned and both are Sahih.
I understand, but you said earlier, there's two hadiths that they contradict themselves. What is the right methodology that we follow?
They don't contradict each other. Both hadith are valid. And they both said, how did we get to the Sunnah? The best of our Imams are the Imams of Ahlul Bayt in status and rank. And the Prophet ﷺ said, love is Ahlul Bayt. That claim that all of my teachers, multiple chains of narration, all of them are Ahlul Bayt. All of them go through the seed of Sayyidina Hussein to my direct teachers. All of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all of them Ahlul Bayt. So it is, we are following Ahlul Bayt. I have an unbroken chain to Jafar al-Sadiq, to Muhammad al-Baqir, to Ali Uraidi. That's my chain. We are following Ahlul Bayt and we're following the Sunnah. And those Imams are the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. You're just not aware of it.
So when it comes to
the most pure lineage on the face of the earth are from my teachers from Hadramaut in Yemen that are all Husseini, all Ahlul Bayt.
What is their opinion, since you're bringing them up, on the khutbah, Nahjul Balagha, khutbah Thalatha, where Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu mentioned his understanding of the three Khalifas that preceded him.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
Because these are all Shia questions, right?
Correct.
Okay, so let's be clear. These are all Shia and good questions. Let me ask you a question. Did Ali follow Sayyidina Abu Bakr?
He did.
He did. Was Ali a coward?
Absolutely not.
The question, was Sayyidina Ali a coward?
Nope.
If he knew that the Prophet ﷺ wanted him to be the Khalifa, would he not have fought for it?
Isn't it true that he didn't have enough supporters to fight for it?
He's Sayyidina Ali. He didn't have enough supporters when he fought Muawiyah, when he fought Aisha, when he fought the Khawarij.
That was 25 years later.
What's the difference? He still didn't have enough supporters.
The difference,
still was outnumbered.
The difference is, after the three Khalifas, people came in droves to get his bay'ah.
But that ain't the question. The question was he outnumbered? Yes. Was he a coward then? No. Would he have been a coward in front of Abu Bakr? No. He's Asadullah, the lion of Allah. The claim that Sayyidina Ali would have known that the Prophet ﷺ had him to be the leader of the Muslims, and he let someone took that right without fighting for it, without objecting, and following them in injustice is the biggest false accusation against Imam Ali. Someone whom the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever I am his protector, Ali is his protector. Whom the prophet left behind to lead the nation, and he stood in his bed when they were going to kill him. You say he's afraid of Abu Bakr? He's afraid of Muslims, and he wasn't afraid of the Quraysh who were coming to kill the prophet. He laid in the prophet's bed when they were knowing they're going to kill him. Do you think he would have let someone take his right? What kind of accusation is that about Sayyidina Ali?
I'm not making this
I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you. I want you to think about it. Just think about what is being said, not you. What is being said? This same young boy who laid in the bed of the Prophet, ﷺ, when people were coming to assassinate him, would have allowed someone to take his right, that the Prophet made abundantly clear that he should be my Khalifa. This is a big accusation when you think about it. I mean, think about it. Think about what is being said about Sayyidina Ali. But when he waited till he got some help, he was still outnumbered and then fought. You know why he fought? Because they went against his right as the Amir al-Mu'mineen, and he fought them. And likewise, if someone was taking his right, he would have fought them too. And that's what Ali said. When they came to Sayyidina Ali, and they said, when Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman was Khalifa, we didn't have all these problems. Now you in charge, we have all these problems. You know what Ali said? Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman had men like me. I got men like you. Oh, that's his statement. They had men like me. I got men like you. What is he saying about himself? What is he saying? With that statement, he's telling you, I'm with him. And despite that, we like to talk tough. He was gangster. For real. He was the one who was in the front of the battlefield all the time when they were outnumbered 3-1. He was up front fighting. You want to tell me he's afraid of Muslims? He wasn't afraid of the worst kuffar. That's Sayyidina Ali. I just want you to think about these things. When we make these kind of accusations, that's strong stuff. When a man's whole life has proven I'm a soldier, I'm a warrior. Even when the Prophet told him to lay behind, he was like, no. And the Prophet ﷺ gave him the flag of battle. He said, I'm going to give this flag to someone that loves Allah and his message, and Allah and his messenger love him. And he called Sayyidina Ali. Oh. And he gave him. His eyes were affected. And the Prophet wiped his eyes and he went to battle. And you tell me he's going to let somebody take his rights? Think about that. Just think about it. It's just something to think about. Right? And guess what? I wouldn't do that. I don't think he would do it. And I don't think he would do it. And we ain't nothing compared to the dust under Ali's shoes. And I wouldn't let nobody do that. I wouldn't let nobody do that. Today, I wouldn't let nobody take a right that I believe that the Prophet ﷺ told us. That's why I defend Ahl Sunnah with my life. And I ain't nowhere near Ali ibn Abi Talib at all, not even close. We should think about these people we're talking about. They're not like us. We are regular people. These are the lions of Islam. We're nowhere near them. And Allah knows best. And I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about the case.
Sisters had a question in the back.
You can come back to your question though after. Let the sisters go and come back.
That mic ain't going to reach all the way over there. We got to repeat.
So always, we didn't have a question, but me and Israel were talking. The average Muslim of every Muslim here did an investigation of their Islam and what did they make Islam and the rules for fasting and marriage. They would find that they follow a madhab unknowingly. They just don't know which one. For those who are unclear about them as why you power. So if you do your research about your Islam and how you worship, you find that it comes from something. That was the statement.
She was saying that the white people